Welcome to the second edition of Star Wars Newsnet Live. And I am one of your hosts, Paul Herman, and I am joined today by the bearded wonder himself, Brian. Brian Miller, how are you doing, sir?
What's going on? I am very well. I'm so glad that it's a Friday night. TGIF. It's been a long week, and what better way to cap it off than to talk about some freaking Mando, man.
Yeah, Mandalorian season 3. So I know the trailer's come, it's gone, and we weren't there for the initial one, which we're working on getting things organized, people. So just bear with us. But what's exciting about, I think, for our show, particularly today, is that we have the advantage of having people kind of sit and just kind of ruminate, on it a little bit. Serenade. Maybe it is serenade too, but to kind of sit and just kind of absorb all the things you've gotten to, read about the Mandalorian, all the behind the scenes stuff, like everything. Like what are all of your thoughts on Mandalorian? And if you're just joining us, this is meant to be the show for you guys who are watching, the fans who want to kind of speak out, have what they're, say what they want to say about the Mandalorian season 3. What are you guys all thinking? Hit us up in the chat here. Give us your comments. We'll throw them out there. We don't want to lead the conversation. We want you to lead the conversation. Right, Brian?
That's absolutely right. And Rock Lee is with us, man. Says he can't wait. Going to be awesome. I'm with you because this trailer, man, like when I was looking forward, I don't watch football. I don't watch football for anything. I'm not a sports guy. I'm a Star Wars nerd geek guy. Surprise. So
I'm a
I
love
just waited
football.
for it to drop on YouTube. So when I finally got to watch it, there was a lot of stuff in there that we'd already seen.
Yeah.
But we really didn't get a whole lot of context as to like what the season's actually about. We know he's going back to Mandalore to atone for that sin that he committed. But other than that, I really don't know what to expect out of this.
Yeah. Well, one thing I would say about the Mandalorian season 3 trailer is that it didn't really give us a lot of like, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of deep stuff to like get us excited about. Maybe that's just me. Again, what did you guys all think? Do you guys all think there was more? Were there deep-seated stuff in there that's going to get you super stoked? Like, I felt like it did a good job of just kind of like a teaser. What's what a teaser's supposed to do, right? It's supposed to, it's supposed to like not give you the goods, just give you a little bit of little tease. That's what I felt like anyway. So,
Rock Lee is pulling up a good point here. Thrawn at the end. So do we want to talk about where we think all of these shows are going to end up going?
I mean, we could talk about this is their show, so let's talk about it.
I've got a theory. And so back in, I think it was 2020, I think, when they did the investors call and they announced all these new shows, the Ahsoka, everything. Kathleen Kennedy made the comment that all of these shows were going to climax into one massive crossover event. And I think Rock Lee's onto something with Thrawn. I don't necessarily think we'll see him at the end of this season. I mean, we might with Ahsoka coming out later this year. We might, but I think we are building up to an awesome crossover where we're going to get some kind of canon version, or not necessarily an adaptation, but a version of the Heir to the Empire trilogy with Thrawn being a big baddie, with him coming back in with the Ahsoka series. And we know she's going to find Ezra and all this stuff. I'm starting to wonder if that's not what we're going to end up building up to with all of these shows. He might be onto something.
Yeah. I personally, I feel like that the Mandalorian and the Thrawn thing is very fascinating, because with Dave Filoni at the helm, and we know that he's a fan of the character, and he brought it into the Rebels. It's something that he's he talked about. There's that little, you remember that little trailer they did for like the season 2, like or not even trailer, it was just kind of like a little like blurb that they released online for season 2 Rebels that kind of teased what was it, or season 3? I'm thinking season 3.
It was mid-season. Was it the mid-season trailer?
For something like that.
Yes.
Well, but either way, it was basically him talking about Heir of the Empire or something like that. He's talked, you know, he teased it. So he obviously is showing you that he's a fan of the character, and obviously with every that story, I should say, obviously the character. So it is brilliant, the idea of adapting. I know Kathleen Kennedy has gone out there and said we don't have anything to adapt, which I think was listen, I'm not I'm not a Kathleen Kennedy hater by any means. I've been critical, but that was one of the not the smartest thing to say ever, in my opinion. that was not right. But yeah, I do think that where it's going, that's where it's headed. I don't think it's going to retcon anything necessarily, but I have a whole different theory about that, which that's a whole different show. I feel like I feel like I'll blow up the room if I say this at some point, but I'll save that for later, guys. When we watch The Mandalorian, we've got a lot of good stuff here. So, you know, anyway, so yeah, back to, I want to see what the chat's saying here. We got, hold on a second. I don't think that's going to happen. Again, I don't want to get into a sequel bashing here. I like the sequels. I'm been critical of those too. Yeah, I'm down with that. Exactly. Okay. All right. All right. Yeah, exactly. See, I got a theory about Grogu.
I don't know about Luke training him though.
If you ever listen to the Saga Continues on our show, I talked about that. I've been talking about this a lot, and I'll just say this: everyone, my buddy Kyle, who I do the show with, I've said before, I think at one point, and I'm not sure it's going to be like a full-time occupation, I think Ahsoka will still train Grogu. I still think so. That's just my take on it.
It can't be Luke training Grogu officially, because I mean, even in the novels it says, you know, that Ben Solo was Luke's first student, you know, his first official student. So
first official, like long-term,
right? And so I don't think there's going to be anything more to Luke and Grogu. Personally, but I've been wrong before, you know. I mean, so, but not to say that if it happened, I wouldn't like it. Oh crap! Yes, bring it on. But I just don't see it happening.
So I want to ask you guys this, and I meant, and there's all you guys out there, because I know you JB here, you've talked about, you call it the Mandoverse, and this, you're not alone. Everyone calls it, you know, a Mandoverse, or people call it the Filoniverse. Does everyone prescribe to like having these little pocket like stories with this? Like, this is the Mandoverse, this is the sequel trilogy. Like to me, it's all Star Wars. So I never really call it, like, I don't like calling it a Filoniverse or anything like that. Like, I know I'm alone on this, but is anyone like me just doesn't affiliate all these different areas separately?
See, I see where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with you, but I think where people are coming from is, you know, with Filoni, all of his stuff basically seems to be tied to itself. Like, you know, Rebels seems to be tied to, we're getting the Ahsoka series that's tied to Rebels. Ahsoka's crossing over with Mando, and Book of Boba Fett obviously crossed over with Mando, vice versa. And so, and you know, we've had, you know, Fennec pop up in Book of Boba Fett. She was in Clone Wars, the last season of Clone Wars. You know, it's just all over the place. So and you know, we had the little tease about the cloning stuff in Bad Batch also, and we had the tease of it in Mando. So I think that's why those I think that's why all those shows kind of relate together a little bit. I think he's kind of in control of this one particular story that he's trying to tell across these different shows. And so I that's why I would, you know, agree with everyone calling it a Filoniverse or whatnot, because it doesn't really seem to tie back to the trilogy films or, you know, anything like that. It's its own contained kind of pocket of the universe, if you would. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, no, I think so. I totally agree with that. Like, I listen, there's no right or wrong with this answer. No. Like, obviously, like, I want to make that very clear. I just, it's, for me, it's, I always feel weird saying it's like, it's all the same though. It's all together. Right. I mean, there are certain things that are separate from everything. So going on to more pictures here, personally, I want to know what you guys all think about the Mandalorians, like armors. Like, I am a huge costume person. I love helmets, masks, costumes. If you guys ever go to like listen to me on the MCU fan show or the comic binge, I'm all about costumes and all this stuff. So I seeing Mandalorians and all more different variations of them, it's fantastic. I freaking love it. So what's your guys' take on like Mandalorians? Are you excited about like seeing all those new costumes? Hit us up on that. Let's see here. I'll go and check this out. All right, we've got. All right. Uh-oh. I don't want to get involved with that. I want to keep it straight on the point here with the show.
Yeah. So
yeah. Keep it all on this. All right. Let's see here. All right. So everyone, please. I want to ask about the trailer itself. How are you feeling about The Mandalorian right now as a whole? As we go into it here in a few weeks, it's going to be here before you know it. Like, it's going to be crazy. So I want you guys on the chat right now who are watching, go in the live chat. I want you to tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited you are. Okay. Are you a 10? Are you an 8? Are you cautiously optimistic, like a 7, 6.5? Are you pretty steadily excited, a little trepidation? And I'll start with you, Bearded Wonder. What is your thoughts on what's your excitement level out of 10 on this right now?
Oh, it's high. It's and the only reason I mean, in Filoni we trust, right? So far he's, I saw the comment. Well, I don't remember who said it. I think it was Rock Lee. Him and Jon Favreau made Star Wars cool again. They brought Star Wars to an entirely new medium that it had never really been in before, and successfully made that transition with little to no effort. You know what I mean? So
well done, David. Well done.
So even with I say in Filoni we trust. I know Resistance wasn't very well received. Even I wasn't a big fan of Resistance, but I think had it gotten the third season it was supposed to have gotten, it might have ended up paying off. Of course, I said that about the sequel trilogy also.
Hey, I love me some Rise. I love me some Rise. Come on now.
But so I trust Filoni. I think he's batting 99. Not counting Resistance. I think he's batting 99, and so. Like for me, the best episodes of Book of Boba Fett were those two little Mando season 2.5 episodes. You know what I mean? So I'm really looking forward to some more Mando, and he's going to Mandalore. I mean, how can you not be excited about him going to Mandalore and seeing a live action Mandalore? You know what I mean? And
right.
And so I trust him on where he's going with the series. I trust him and Jon Favreau explicitly. And I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, that's really all I can say about it.
Man, I gotta tell you, I talked about this on the Saga Continues recently on our show, and I'm curious. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I will say this: the Mandalorian teaser or trailer, I should say, has really got my mind going about some possibilities. And I want to know what you guys all think about this really quick. And again, it doesn't have to be, we don't stay a long time on this, people. And if you have questions, please let us, ask them in the chat, ask us, and tell us what you're thinking. We'll discuss it. This is a show for you guys, but keep them coming. Unless, do you want us to catch up on the chat at all, Brian? Or are there some good things you want me to show up on?
I think we're good for now. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm keeping an eye on it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So, here's my take. All right, I'm gonna throw this out to you. In result, everyone here, tell me what you think of this idea. I talked about, we obviously the Night of 1,000 Tears, right? That little like T2 homage that we had in season. That
was such a cool flashback.
Oh, that was amazing. That was freaking amazing. I want what I was thinking, and I don't want like a series of this. All right, now because the one thing I think after COVID. And after getting all these great series we've gotten on for Marvel and for DC and for Star Wars and et cetera, the one thing that I'm gonna say right now is that I love me some theatrical, high budget, beautiful looking stuff. I love The Way of Water. I know everyone's gonna love that. I think it looks incredible. I saw it in a real IMAX screen a couple weeks ago. Again, the second time it was incredible. And say what you want about the story, you can whatever. I'm not going to debate that, but it still looks incredible. And it definitely solidified to me that I want to see high budget Star Wars, regardless how good these series are, right? And when I was thinking, I bring all this back to Night of 1,000 Tears, right? What would you guys all say about a prequel film, not like in a vein of Rogue One, where we're going to be getting a Night of 1,000 Tears, like a movie, like where it's going to be just full on brutality of the Empire taking on, the Mandalorians, and it's a no holds barred, drag out gnarly battle like Rogue One-ish, but with Mandalorians versus the Empire. Now listen, I'm not. We can make anything a movie. I get it, right? But the reason why I would say it's a smart decision, in my opinion, again, people in the chat tell me if I'm full of crap, give me a 1. If you're with me, give me a 2. What? Yeah, crap 1. It should be actually the other way around, right? No, it doesn't matter. But if you're with me, give me a 2. But I just feel that with a high budgeted idea with Star Wars, with the Mandalorians versus Empire, the mainstream audience, they know Mandalorians. They are going to be locked in, and that's to me a profit that's going to be if you do a high budgeted Mandalorian versus Empire, everyone recognizes stormtroopers. It's printing money at that point. I mean, you print money with Mandalorians, but I feel like that'd be a good, like, you can get it out there. You don't have to worry about sequels necessarily. You can just worry about getting a story out together, a concrete 2-hour, action-packed 2-hour movie. It's going to make $1 billion. It's easy money, in my opinion. Am I full of crap here? Tell me, people.
I don't know if if they announce tomorrow they're doing that movie and it's just called Star Wars Night of 1,000 Tears, I'm going to crap myself. I'm like, holy crap. Yes, please. But I don't see them doing a full, like, 2.5-hour movie, 2-hour movie with a full budget when we've already kind of got the story there. I mean, the armor kind of already summed up what happened. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see that. I would just crap myself seeing Night of 1,000 Tears, but I don't know, man. I feel like the whole Mandalorian thing they're going to end up keeping in the series and stuff. And I think I see him ending up staying there. And once we end up leaving this saga area behind, which we are going to do eventually, we're going to end up leaving the Skywalker saga era behind and move on to either the future or focus more on
future Skywalker. Well, in future Skywalkers potentially.
Yeah, there's no Skywalkers left though.
Hey, excuse me?
There's no Skywalkers left.
Rey Skywalker? That's weird. I thought. We're gonna see
Skywalker.
Oh, homie.
Oh man,
right. We're gonna save this for later. We'll save this for later.
Yeah, that's a whole nother life.
That's a whole. And listen, so obviously I had no idea you were on the opposite spectrum.
Yeah,
I'm the opposite. I love Rey Skywalker. I love that whole story. That's a whole different podcast. We'll get. Trust me. We will get there eventually. I promise. Because it's gonna be a no hold. It's gonna be I can already tell it's gonna be a no drag out. Yeah, me too. I ain't holding back either. It's gonna be fun. So, but I think you're right. I see your point is right though. But I do think that if Disney wants to make money, as far as they do, and they want to milk it as much as they can, introduce new characters, you can, this feels like a really easy way to get back into the good graces of fandom. But doing an adaptation like that with high budgeted and it looks great on screen, you could do a TV series of it. But I feel like give us high budget looking amazing stuff. Like I love TV series, but I don't want to just watch TV series all the time. Yeah. I like condensed storytelling. I mean, that's why I love comics.
We don't know what's coming in season 3 either. If he's going back to Mandalore, we may end up getting that whole story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we'll see.
Yeah, and listen, like everyone is entitled to their opinions, and like I want to make that very clear. Like I just feel like I want a high budgeted thing. I don't think a Thousand Tears would be done justice on a TV budget over a long period of time. That's just my take. Anyone else? Go ahead.
You know what? He brings up a good point with the Disney Plus movie thing. With that, because that's something we haven't talked about. Is maybe doing shorter. You know how Marvel is doing these special presentations, 45 minutes, 50 minutes. We got the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. We got the Werewolf by Night thing. It's how they're introducing.
I love Werewolf by Night.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. So why can't they do something like that with Star Wars? Do like a 45-minute, 50-minute long live action mini movie, like a special presentation, Lucasfilm's special presentation. Don't call it that because that'd be a little on the nose. But something along those lines, and tell a story like what you're talking about, like A Night of 1,000 Tears or something like that,
Well, I mean, but here's the problem. Okay. So here's my main problem is that what the goodwill that Mando and Grogu have built, they have created a huge huge thing for Disney to now build off of the other Mandalorians that you can do now. And now you don't underestimate the power of recognizing stormtroopers, recognizing and having those two going at it. That is for a casual viewer, not like us, we're the hardcores here. But the casual viewer is going to look at that and go, "Oh, I go see that. That looks good. That's a cool, like, high budgeted, have it put that pizzazz in that trailer. People are going to go flock to that movie." And that's why, because you want to make money in return and all that stuff. These Disney Plus series, as we're finding out, there's limitations. There's limitations to the streaming services. So I don't know. Like and that's again, everyone has their own opinions. It's great. I want to hear all of them. Tell us what you guys all think. But I didn't want to get too sidetracked with that. I apologize, everybody. I just wanted to pitch it out there because, again, seeing these things like the Night of 1,000 Tears
those are the stories we want. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, this I think this looks incredible. I mean, if you give me every episode, Brian, that looks like this, then I guess I wouldn't really need
film.
Film,
full-length film. Yeah.
But here's the thing. And I've been critical of Mando a little bit. And everyone, tell me what you think about this. And it might be unfair. Am I being fair? Tell me. But I feel like Mando a lot of times is in a lot of hallways. It's kind of like
he's in a lot of hallways.
There's a lot of hallways. And
Star Wars has a lot of hallways when you start thinking about it.
No, there is. There's a lot of hallways, and mainly in the TV series. Now, that's not a bad thing. Hallways are cool. The problem is you kind of know they're working around like the sets when like it's always like a narrow corridor of like either on a ship or on like a long hallway like we have here. Again, this looks fantastic. This looks great. I mean, I love this. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like there are limitations. And Mando has done a good job of trying to get around those. And I feel like Andor has kind of shown how pivotal and how crucial the outdoor sets and things like that are. I mean, we get like this, like location shooting, excuse me. So, and people like, again, I'm not sure what they're saying yet on here yet, Brian, but do you guys think that Andor is in a different beast? Like they have done a phenomenal job with their budget. Has Mandalorian done well with their budget in season 2? And am I being unfair saying that this is that all it is there's a lot of hallways? Because it looks to me, listen, season 2 is one of my favorite Star Wars things ever. I'm not hating on that necessarily, but I'm just saying that I do see the limitations of that, and in Book of Boba Fett. And
there were a lot of problems with Book of Boba Fett with the sets and
it looked cheap at times,
low budget. Right. I mean, you can see in the top of buildings, you can see 2x4s holding building facades up. I mean, it was, but you got to remember also, Mando had Admiral Blue Jean hiding in the background that they had to go back in and edit out. I mean, so stuff like that happens. But as far as the budget goes, I don't think you have to worry about the budget in season 3. I think season 2 was handled great. I think just some of the shots that you're seeing, for like the trailers for season 3, when you're looking at hallway shots, right? When you're looking at that long hallway shot with Bo-Katan down at the end, that shot. When you're looking at that, it puts that central focus on her in the distance, and that there's a coming confrontation between the person in the foreground, the person in the background. It's coming, and it starts to build anticipation. There's really nothing else to distract your eye away from that and what's getting ready to happen. It's a technique they use in film quite a bit. And talking about Bo-Katan, that's going to be a wicked showdown. And so I think all these shots, the tunnel focus, the tunnel vision focused shots of showing that, I think it's just building the anticipation for me. And we've got the other shots too, of Mandalore and everything like that to make it seem larger scale. I don't think it's going to be an issue.
No, I don't think it's to be an issue either. I just felt like the last season they definitely skirted around and they did a great job, I think, of maneuvering things a little bit. As far as making do with what they had. It definitely didn't look as good as obviously as Andor. I think Andor is obviously the be all end all.
Andor is just polished. I mean,
it's
polished.
Well, Gilroy even said like they used they did not waste anything on that, and it shows. And like they did not waste. They did not.
They
What he said
went over every frame of that series and just just cleaned it and just made sure it was up to par.
I just wanted to say here, Ben, I very much disagree with what you're saying here. I respect you, sir, but I'm going to tell you right now.
I agree with him.
We listen. I know you agree. That's fine. Listen, we are going to talk about this in a very civil. And I mean, and I'm trying to be funny. I mean, seriously, me and Brian, we know we already disagree, but the whole point of this live stream is to help promote good conversation, productive conversation. We don't have to agree on everything. And I want to like have growth of people like saying like, yeah, it's a good point. I don't like it, but I can see your point. Like, that kind of thing. I want to promote that. So I disagree, but I will eventually have rebuttals for all these. And I would love to get your rebuttals back when we do the show. So please come back. I appreciate you interacting, sir. And if people who are watching, please hit the like button and get involved with us. Talk with us. I don't want, obviously, Ben, we appreciate you talking with us. And if you're going to be the only one talking, let's do it. It's fine. But anyway, I really want to talk about Mando season 2. I again, preface it. There's elements of the show that really stick out to me that makes me go, yeah, this is where they're cheating a little bit. I thought everything else looks again, it's amazing. Book of Boba Fett, and Ben, I'm gonna go back on a little bit here for you. I do agree that at times Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan look cheap. Yeah. But there are also times it looked incredible, like in my opinion. Like there was plenty of great stuff.
Both ends of the spectrum were there. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
But and MB Wilson said, Andor's taking almost 2 years per season, so it is time consuming. The thing is, what's Marvel's biggest problem right now? Quantity over quality. That's the biggest thing. Everybody's getting hit over the head with so much Marvel stuff. The CG is starting to lack. They've had problems at the CG studios of being overworked. The shows aren't being as well received as what they had started off to at the beginning of this phase. And they've already said, we're going to slow down the amount of content we're putting out because the quality is starting to wane. And so I don't want to see that happen with Star Wars. I would almost rather them take the time. 2 years per season. I don't see a problem with that. As long as because I mean, look at how well polished, like I said, look at how polished that show is. And even with Mando, how long has it been since we got the end of season 2 for Mando? It's been, going on 2 years. Yeah. I think they're going to give us a very polished season. And I'm more of a quality over quantity guy.
No, and I am too. I don't want it. I'd rather have 2 series a year and have it look phenomenal than have 3 like kind of or 2 good and kind of 1 Now, again, Ben, I'm going to say yes and no. That last episode of Kenobi, like I'll take that over any episode of Andor, straight up. Like that's just me. Like and everyone out there, like tell me are there parts of is Obi-Wan all dog crap, or is it kind of hit and miss? Like, I mean, tell me what you guys all think.
A good example. I know the kind of shots he's talking about right now in Kenobi. There's
I know exactly what he's talking about too.
Where Leia is strapped to the torturing table thing and the lights go out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? And all of a sudden Obi-Wan's just like, and it looked like it was shot on like a Broadway stage and the camera was all shaky and it just, you could tell that it was one continuous shot of Kenobi swinging the saber that was cut in the middle to show something else. And then went right back to the exact same shot. And it wasn't the entire series, not by a long shot. There was there was some beautiful stuff in Kenobi also. But yeah, there's some cheesy moments so far. And like you said, Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi have been the 2 that have really suffered from that more than any of the rest of them. Honestly, I think Mando has been really polished. Andor is incredibly polished. And that's not to say that Mando's not perfect, but
they all aren't perfect.
I'm excited for the season. I don't think we're going to have any issues.
I agree. The one I'm going to say, and Ben, thank you so much for interacting. Again, people get into the chat. Tell us what you think about season 3 of Mando. Are you excited? Give me a level. How excited are you? Keep telling me, what are you anticipating the most? Like I mean, without spoilers, people, I don't want to spoil anyone's things here. If you know spoilers, I avoid spoilers personally. So please, out of respect for me and Brian, I'm not sure if you read spoilers or not, but I try to stay away from spoilers. So please, out of respect for me, I would appreciate it. No spoilers. But if you're out there, what are you most anticipating? Like what are you excited about? Tell us. I will say about Andor. I think the one, and I said this before earlier too, I do think that they solidified how important the outdoor shooting and practical shooting as location shooting is what you said before. I couldn't remember the thing of the word.
Yeah.
Location shooting really shows you how pivotal that is, how good it can look, and trying to balance that. And I feel like Andor even they've got away with a little bit too, because think about this: how much takes place on his home world that they built that whole place for. It looks great.
Yeah.
But they again, it was smartly written. This is not a knock on Andor, but it's smartly written and given a lot of practical ideas, like how do we save budget kind of a thing. And there's more of a, there was more reason to stay and go back to that planet. And it was, again, they used their budget beautifully. And I do think that's how you have to view it. You have to use your budget smart and have people who are behind the camera know what they're doing, like a Gilroy, like a Filoni, like,
Favreau.
like a, Favreau. Yeah, I forget her name. With Obi-Wan, it was a little bit not, I mean, Deborah Chow is super, she's a veteran with TV, man. She's, Better Call Saul. I want to say Jessica Jones. Mandalorian did great Mandalorian episodes. So she's not like she's inept and the people behind it were inept. I just think that there was, unfortunately, also the timing of the pandemic. I think that all kind of played a part in it, to be honest. And honestly, like, again, there's parts of Obi-Wan that are incredible. I love it. Like, I'm like that. I think the last episode is incredible. I think it's I think Obi-Wan looks great. But here's my biggest thing with Obi-Wan, and people in the chat, let us know what you think about this. And Brian, I'm curious what you think.
Okay.
I think the biggest problem with Obi-Wan was the first episode is maybe the weakest.
So me personally, I've always been a slow burn story kind of guy. I love slow burn stories. I love slow starts, and usually the stories with the slowest starts have the biggest climaxes, the biggest finales. And I didn't have a problem because this was a character that we hadn't seen, on screen, new footage of on screen since 2005. So, it was nice to kind of see where he was, what he was doing, where he's been for the last, 10 years on the canon timeline, and, kind of where he was at. The one thing that I did find interesting, and, it goes to a bunch of the sequel haters talking about how they were upset how Luke, shut himself off from the Force, no more Jedi, blah, blah, blah. Luke would never have done that, blah, blah, whatever. They got mad when Luke did it, but when Obi-Wan did it, it was perfectly okay. Like, it was like,
well,
oh, he's so broken. His apprentice turned on him and he's so broken. He cut himself off from the Force, and, he doesn't want to help any other Jedi. Boy, that sounds really familiar, So it was the exact same thing.
It's a little different. It's a little different. But
it's actually worse for Luke. So it's actually more understandable for Luke because it was his nephew on top of being his apprentice. So, so it's one of those things, but no, I didn't mind the first couple episodes of Obi-Wan. I think it took its time telling the story of what was going to get Obi-Wan off of Tatooine away from Luke. And I think it needed that air to breathe. I think it needed that room to kind of flesh out that story a little bit, because I was not expecting Leia in that series.
I wasn't either. At all. I wasn't either.
When you see the Castle of Alderaan and you're like, what is this really happening right now? That's what
Obi-Wan wasn't the issue I felt in that series or in that episode. It was, I felt like some of the the story wasn't the problem. The story was airtight in Obi-Wan. I meant that very clearly. I think the story was airtight. But really quick, this is a different story, a different podcast or live stream. We're
gonna start making a list of stuff to talk about.
We are. Oh, I already know the list is in my head, but I definitely don't think Obi-Wan and Luke are their stories are in the sequel trilogy are not even remotely the same. But that's a whole different thing. I have a whole different
So is Rey and Luke. They're identical. Their stories are completely identical.
They are very similar.
They're completely identical.
They're very similar. I would agree.
Identical.
Not identical. They're
promise you.
They're very. We'll talk. We'll talk about it. We'll talk. Yeah, we're gonna get lively at one point. I wanted to talk about this for a minute because I think that, but see, and this is gonna be people are gonna be like, "What? I can't believe that you say this." I like fun. Cheese is fun, and I want to make that very clear. Like, I remember bringing up the part of the episode 2 of Obi-Wan where you have a dinosaur shooting at Obi-Wan like on the rooftop. That to me is the right amount of cheese for Star Wars. You can't take everything at Andor level seriousness, because if you do, you write out, you just, to me, it pulls away from what makes Star Wars fun. And there is a cheese element that's fun, and there's an enjoyment to it. Like there's always been like that with Star Wars, and I don't want everything to be mega serious. That's just not. It's not, to me. It's not what kids will identify with, and I don't think kids should identify with everything being bleak, serious all the time. Because life isn't always like bleak and serious. It can be fun. Life is not always fun either. So it's a balance, and I think that Obi-Wan did at times didn't have the best balance of tone, maybe necessarily all the time, but when it did get aligned, it was chef's kiss. And I do think that there are episodes that are great in there, but I just think that for me, Obi-Wan had too much cheese at times, and it definitely broke that a lot of people's will, which I don't blame them, because there were parts where I'm like, that doesn't look good, and I just. It's reality. I definitely don't think Mandalorian season 3 has that problem, but I also think it's because you've got Filoni and Favreau who know what the hell they're doing. From again, because like they're better, but because they're better because they just have more experience. To be honest, I think Deborah Chow's a good director. Yeah. I think she made some decisions that weren't always great, you know. And I think, but not just her, but like the whole creative team didn't always make the best decisions. So, you know, this is a great point. It did I felt like it did a great tone of the prequels, and honestly, I felt a great thing for families to watch together. I definitely would never. My daughter saw, a number. She's only 2.5. She saw a bunch of Obi-Wan and liked it. For much as a 2-year-old, she ain't watching Andor. I could tell you that right now. Like, not because I won't let her, because she'll just be bored in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
And that's not bad. It's a different tone, and I feel like. And Andor, it's cool to have Andor. We need Andor, but I don't want everything to be Andor. I'm not even close. So, let's see here what Mr. Ben is saying. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, the last part is no. They were not off the charts bad. I definitely don't agree with that at all. Book of Boba Fett.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I agree. There needs to be some stuff for younger generation. I get that, but a story like Kenobi. A story that we grew up with, that I mean, that's that we grew up with, characters that we grew up with, and we watched the rise and fall of Anakin and the betrayal there with Obi-Wan, all of that I feel like, and because of the nature of that story, I think it should have been an adult thing.
I disagree, because I really love the story they told.
Well, they told a good story. Yeah.
To be honest, I thought I thought it was airtight. I thought Obi-Wan was airtight. So yeah, I thought it was great. And I think you can't have it be overly serious with a young child like Leia. And I felt like, again, it's a balance to me. I feel like Star Wars is meant for families where everyone can enjoy it, and there's a little bit of everything. And that's where I would say, like, I don't want Obi-Wan to be like an Andor. I would not. That's just me personally. Would I like Obi-Wan at parts to look better? Yes. Now, Book of Boba Fett, that's a different little bit. What who am I missing something? Who's Ratcatcher? Am I
Ratcatcher?
Is that like, are we talking about Suicide Squad? Like, who am I? Ratcatcher? Who am I? Please, Johnny, please help me out here. I have unless it's a spoiler. Don't tell me it's a spoiler. Let's see here. Yeah, Brian. No, he doesn't. Ben, I don't care.
Here, you know what? Yeah. Here, real quick, not to derail this whole thing.
No, please, you can derail anything.
Going back to the whole Ray and Luke are the same person thing. Real quick,
here we go.
I found this thing that I typed out back in April of last year.
Okay.
I'm gonna read this, and you tell me who I'm talking about, Ray or Luke.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
A teen loses their parents at a young age and is hidden on a desert planet for their safety. They escape the desert planet on the Millennium Falcon with a droid carrying information vital to the good guys in the galaxy. The teen loses the old man that snuck around the bad guy's super weapon with them, and screams no, alerting the bad guys to their presence. They escape the super weapon, which is later blown up by the good guys flying in a trench run. This teen, who has natural force abilities, goes to a self-exiled Jedi master. This master doesn't want to train the teen because of their affinity for the dark side. This teen visits a cave strong in the dark side and has a vision of who they are, but they don't understand.
Is it a cave or is it a dwelling?
Hang on. Against the Jedi Master's advice, the young teen leaves and rushes to confront the Dark Apprentice of the trilogy. The teen has a revelation when the Dark Apprentice reveals their true identity and bloodline. On the same planet the Jedi Master exiled himself on, the teen visits with the Force ghost of their mentor, and their bloodline is confirmed to them. They confront the Dark Apprentice again later and convinces him to turn from the dark side. Finally, the young teen willingly goes before the Emperor to defeat him as he attacks them with Force lightning. In the end, the redeemed apprentice gives his or her life to save the young teen. This apprentice gives his life to save the young teen, and the teen goes on to become a Jedi after seeing the Force of their mentor smiling at them from a distance. So you tell me who we're talking about, Rey or Luke?
Listen, I said they're very similar. I never
they're
said
identical. They're identical.
Hold on. No, Brian.
And it's going to make the same story.
Brian, all I'm going to say is that those broad strokes are the same, and I wouldn't, and that's why I said they're very similar.
That's pretty detailed.
But the details, the devil's in the details, because they're not one for one. It's just not going to happen. It's just not. Again, I don't want to get too deep into this. This is a whole other thing. But I said,
I was looking for it. I was feverishly looking for that, and
they're very similar, and that was by design. And I knew that. It was going to have some. There's going to be a lot of same ideas there, but how they got there, what they got there, they're very different, and they're different enough for me to enjoy. Again, I love Rise of Skywalker. A lot of people don't like it. I have my reasons for liking it. I have maybe some biases with it a little bit for a number of different levels. I think I enjoy it. It's one of my favorite ones to rewatch, to be honest. I love rewatching all the time.
I watch it a lot too.
There's some. You can. That's fine. I must have some sweet, amazing dreams.
No, yeah, hearing the Star Wars music in background does help. Yeah.
No, yeah. Listen, I don't want to get too deep into it, but like I said, there's a lot of emotional impact I have, and that's the only way you can really have anything impactful in art, is having an emotional connection with it. And if you have an emotional connection to it, that's one thing. And that's why I don't have any emotional connection to The Last Jedi, to be honest. So I mean, I have zero connection to that movie. In fact, we flip. I have the exact opposite for Last Jedi that you have for Rise of Skywalker. So
I'm not. I did like Last Jedi until Rise of Skywalker came out.
You would. I know. That's why I'm saying.
Yeah, I no longer do, but I
might have to. Right. I will say this. We'll have to turn off the chats when we have our debate, because it's going to get nuts. We'll have to get a mediator in here.
Not pull any punches either, because the sequel films here, and I don't even call it a trilogy. I don't even refer to it as the trilogy. It's the sequel.
It's a trilogy. It's a
very weak trilogies. The films have something to do with each other. These three films have nothing to do with each other.
They still do.
And, I remember when Last Jedi came out. I liked the movie at the time, and I read the novel, and I loved the novel. And I told people who hated the movie, trust me, read the book. It makes the story a lot better. And they came back. You're absolutely right. That story was awesome in the novelization. Made no sense as a movie. And I thought the same thing was going to happen with Rise of Skywalker. And I didn't like Rise of Skywalker. And I read the book, and the book made it way better. There were things in the Rise of Skywalker novel that should have been in the movie that never were. And it just, it really irked me. But
listen, I think
that whole trilogy, it is a trilogy if you look at them as novels. Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. That's a trilogy of novels. Those should never have been the films. That should never have been the sequel. Here's
the thing.
People don't like them, and it's fine.
Listen. The one thing we have to do is with grief is acceptance.
Accept
for you. I accept. Listen, no, but seriously. Because I do think Rey Skywalker, there's a lot of great storytelling potential there. I know you and Ben disagree, and a lot of other people disagree. There's a lot of people who agree. There's a lot of people who agree with me on this one. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have reasons for Rey Skywalker. I have a lot of good defending arguments for it. That's not going to. I don't think it's going to sway you by any means. But I think it's important, and this is why I think it's important to have these conversations like this, what we're having, because we need to show people can disagree and have their points, and show everyone, hey, I don't really love Rey Skywalker. My big brother and I, my older brother is 6 years older than I am. We just argue about he can't stand he can't stand the sequel trilogy, and I argue with him all the time. But the elements that we have there's validity to both of what we say, and it's a matter. But here's the thing: ultimately, it matters what Lucasfilm goes forward with. Yeah. And that to me is what I'm trying to focus on.
It's all from a certain point of view.
Right. But that's the thing is we just got to have from that, how does Lucasfilm go forward? Do you completely ignore it, or do you accept it? That's to me, regardless of how I feel about Last Jedi or whatever, I have to
honestly,
accept it is.
the fact we're sitting here talking about it is the reason why they're focusing more on Andor, Mando, the Ahsoka series that's coming out. You know what I mean? That's why they're Bad Batch. That's why they're focusing more on these IPs more than anything. Because think about what's the last thing that came out anywhere near the sequel films. I mean, Resistance, that was the last thing that came out anywhere near
it. Mando is leading towards that. I mean, like,
we're still like 15, 20, 25 years removed.
The seeds are planted, which I like is great, which I think the seeds that they're planting in Mando, and I think season 3 is only going to push that forward even more, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think with the Thrawn stuff, if they're going to adapt Heir of the Empire, like as we all think that
I think they're going to, yeah.
It seems like that's where they're headed. If that's what they're doing in Mando season 3, then I do think that Mando is going to help bring in, usher in the sequel trilogy, and it'll make it better. I mean, I'll be honest, like the prequel trilogy was made better by the Clone Wars, and I feel that there's going to be a sequel. I think the sequel trilogy will be helped by having more things flesh it out around it. And again, I'm not saying you have to love everything about it, but like you have to accept it's not going to be retcon. It's never, I mean, maybe in like we're 80 years old. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Why, instead of getting angry about it, this is my opinion, just accept it.
I'm not mad. I have the novels I can read.
There you go. I have and I have Rise of Skywalker. I have Rey Skywalker. I love her. You know, she's great. And I can't wait to see her more in the future films. So,
you did bring up an interesting point a while ago though, about Clone Wars making the prequels better. I completely agree with you on that. Because when I was growing up, I grew up first with the classics, and then I was already a Star Wars fan when the prequels were coming out. But I remember episode 2 coming out and was just like, what? That was what, 2002. I was 13. I think I was 13 when episode 2 came out, and even at 13 I was like, what is this? This isn't what I was, but I think you're right when you start to sit, because even Clone Wars had a little bit of a shaky start.
Rise of Skywalker.
But
anybody?
But
yeah.
But no, I think Clone Wars helped flesh that out a lot more, because even with the classic trilogy, we saw things that Obi-Wan told Luke, saying, he was he was the greatest star pilot in the galaxy and a good friend. And we never really saw, we saw snippets of it, but we never saw the good friend aspect of that. We never really, we saw a little bit of the piloting, but we didn't really see that Obi-Wan Anakin relationship really fleshed out. And then Clone Wars came along. And if somebody's never watched the, Star Wars before, and they watch episodes 1, 2, and then watch Clone Wars, then watch 3 is so much more tragic than if you just watch 1, 2, 3. It's so much more tragic. And you honestly see it coming a little bit more with some of the dark side stuff you see Anakin do in Clone Wars. You know what I'm saying? Admiral Trench, anybody? So, there's certain things. Yeah, I think that made it a lot better. And it's entirely possible that Mando, I don't want to see Mando run 15 seasons just to fill in the gap.
No, you're not going to. You're not going to.
Leading in that direction. And I think if we climax with a Thrawn story, that really usher in what's going on in the sequel. So you're right. I think I think there's a possibility it could definitely flesh it out a little bit more.
And I'm just gonna no more sequel trilogy talking for the next 10 minutes. I promise. The last thing I'm gonna say, I'll let you go off here. So I'll only have the final word only because of this. I want to move on, but I will say, I do think how they handle Rey after this, there is still a possibility of salvaging the sequel trilogy to a point where it'll be like this prequel trilogy. You could say, I don't love everything about it, but I accept it, and you just kind of move on from it.
They can salvage it's critical. Yeah, you can salvage anything.
But how they deal with her and the story with her going forward, that will help better, because if they do a great story with Rey afterwards, and more people are on board with Rey Skywalker, it's going to make the sequel trilogy that much better. But it really depends on what happens to her going forward. So anyway, but again, we will do a whole Rey Skywalker. I could talk for hours on that whole thing, man. So, and I do think what Mr. Wilson's right. I think over time, Mando and other things will make this better. So speaking of Mando, let's talk about our final thoughts, everyone. So if you're in the chat, please let us know. I got a lot of people's excitement levels already. Let's talk about which character are you most excited to know the most about? The more revealing of the character. Is it Grogu? Is it Din? Is it oh my god, I can't think of her name. Katie Sackhoff's character. Oh my god.
Bo-Katan?
Bo-Katan. Couldn't think of
That's
her
where
name.
I'm at. Bo-Katan, yeah.
Okay, all right. Are we talking about Grief Karga? Are we talking about who in the Mando season 3 are you getting the most excited about? Because I'm curious what everyone's thoughts are. I have my ideas, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And Brian, your Bo-Katan's your
Bo-Katan, yeah. I'm looking forward to that because at the end of season 2, right? Like when she wanted that darksaber, that was the whole point of her coming along, was to get. She told them at the beginning, Gideon is mine. I fight Gideon. You guys leave him the hell alone. You don't touch him. He's mine. And what happened? Mando fought him, got the darksaber. Even though Gideon kind of threw the fight just to watch the drama play out, he still got the darksaber. And when he walks in holding it, and you see the look on Bo-Katan's face, she is just livid. She is raging inside that he got it and not her. You know what I mean? Because she'd already had it given to her once. They even mentioned that, I think, in Mando. She'd already had it given to her once by Sabine Wren. I think it was actually mentioned in the Mando episode for the first one for Book of Boba Fett. When I think the armorer is the one that told Din Djarin about that.
So good. Yeah.
But mentioned that Sabine Wren had given her that darksaber because she didn't want to lead. To have that done a second time, that's never going to happen. So I think it's going to come down. She is going to be driven crazy by the lust of wanting that power, that authority, and wanting to save Mandalore. She is going to go to town on Din Djarin in this season. I think we know Gideon's coming back. We know there's going to be some other characters popping up, but I think she's going to end up being the main antagonist in this season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think she's going to be. I almost feel like she's going to be an antagonist at first. Like there's going to be like an uneasy alliance at the end again, kind of a thing where eventually she's going to give herself up for, I mean, again, we have so many future episodes to talk about this stuff. Yeah. I don't even want to blow it all right here. So I've got a lot of my own speculation where the main story of this is going. For me, it's always going to be Grogu. I think Grogu is the most fascinating character. And
what if Grogu, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but I want to throw this in real quick. What if Grogu is the Mandalorian, the title character, the Mandalorian, and it's not Din Djarin, it's actually Grogu? Yeah, by the end of the series, he is the Mandalorian.
I don't like that idea, to be honest.
No,
I don't. And this is why I was going to get into why I think, because I think there's greater story potential for Grogu. Besides, and honestly, to give a little hint of what I think they should do is have a Grogu and Rey like eventually come together at some point, like after over time. Because the thing for me is, if you want to salvage, I know like Ben out there has been trashing the sequels like crazy, and there's truth to what you say, Ben. There's half truths. There's all kinds of truths. Mr. Ben. But the one thing I will say though is that I think that how you salvage the sequel trilogy is by incorporating one of the most popular new characters into and molding them together. I think Grogu's destiny should always be with the Jedi. I think that has been solidified. I want that to keep going. I know he's not being trained by Luke, but you don't need to have that to have him be that eventually. And his aging is a factor for how you can develop things. And we don't know this.
You can use Grogu forever.
Exactly.
Or
ever. And the thing is with Grogu is that we don't know how it's going to age. You dictate how he ages. Like there's no canonicity.
Yeah, because he's already 50
years old.
Yeah.
So how we don't know when we can be a growth spurt after 51, and all of a sudden he's a full-fledged adult. We don't know. Like I don't think so, but you get what I'm saying. It's wide open storytelling, and I just think that I have my own theories. I think there's a broader sense of where you could push Grogu into the new sequel trilogy after the sequel trilogy, and have him be a major player into that. That's where I think you build them up to that if they're smart. But again, that's just where I think they should put it. But either way, I do think Grogu's going to be a development. We have other scenes in it, right, with this Again, people, give me more. As we have 5 more minutes. Let's get out there. Tell us quick thoughts. If you're in the chat, get in there. If you're watching, just get in the chat real quick to say, Mando, Bo, Grogu, Grief, new character. I don't know, whatever. But Grogu, to me, having his history, revealing what was going to happen to him, he's the key to everything. I really do think so. And I think, to me, where he goes, the show will go, in my opinion. And not just because I think he's the only thing, but I think the general audience is he's the heart of the show. Mando is the show, but Grogu's the heart.
Yeah.
The heart needs to be, so you need to develop that heart, to me, in order to kind of progress the story forward. And if he stays in Mandalore, or he stays in Mandalore, it just doesn't really progress. I think with Grogu, I want to learn more about him and his history, because I want to know more about the species, to be honest. So I'm a big believer in that.
Here's something interesting to consider.
Yeah.
Grogu chose the Mandalorian way, right?
At this point, yes.
At this point, so far. And when Luke gave him that option, he chose the Mandalorian way. And he's incredibly force sensitive. He's had a little bit of training. We've seen Grogu.
Amen, Johnny.
And so
yeah.
What if, right? So where did the Darksaber come from? It was a Mandalorian Jedi.
Well, yeah, ancient, yeah.
In the past, that had crafted this lightsaber out of Beskar and made the Darksaber. Mandalorian Jedi. Are we getting ready to see another force sensitive Mandalorian down the road? Because Grogu's wearing Beskar at this point. He's wearing Beskar armor, So,
but is he the bridge? Is he that's fine.
Yeah. Is he the next? Because that other Mandalorian was kind of that bridge. Is that getting ready to happen again?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think that's
just an interesting thought.
No, I think that to me makes more sense. I don't think he could just be full on like I'm the ruler of Mandalore. I think he has to be a bridge of like he's like the little piece between the two factions, right? And which makes sense because he grew up a Mandalorian and he has Jedi. He has both.
Yeah.
I think there is truth to him being not the protagonist, but a main protagonist. That makes like he's not like the lead, but a co-lead. Like,
right.
So I could see a Rey and Grogu and another new character or two being the co-lead. Again, that whole idea of a ensemble cast, which I think Grogu would be pivotal in with that.
Right.
So yeah, as we wrap up here, everyone, this has been another great turnout. Been super excited. We're gonna try to do these more regularly as we go. Right now, we're just still developing things, and we appreciate everyone jumping on. Super appreciate it. We love everyone, coming in, giving us their opinions, even if I disagree with them, like Mr. Ben Bamboo over here. Respect you, sir. Disagree with a lot what you say, but that's again, I love to talk.
I don't.
And that's fine. And that's fine. That's fine. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you so much for doing this. Super appreciate it. Again, there's no right or wrong answers in this, people. There's no right or wrong as far as how you feel, what Star Wars makes you feel. I make that very clear. Brian doesn't like it, doesn't mean I don't love it, and we can still be buds and hang out and enjoy things and still have good conversations about it. And that's what exactly. Right for you. Yeah, exactly. Still, exactly. It's what it's all about. We're trying to promote. I don't want to be split anymore, people. I want to bring us together. I know I'm being kumbaya here, but it's true. I want to bring people that have like these fiery opinions. Be fiery. We can get upset. But it's all in the name of love. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it really is, because Star Wars has only shown us that through our differences, we can work together. And that is true. And I think to me, Star Wars News Net Live will always represent that idea of we can disagree, but we can all still be fans together and still enjoy these things together and disagree together and agree together. So again, can't wait to this. I think the next episode we'll probably do, thank you, sir, Mr. Wilson, appreciate it. We're probably going to do a Bad Batch recap. We've got some good stuff. I'm going to tell you right now,
episode was pretty cool.
Last few episodes, I've liked the season. The season's been good. So I'm, spoiler alert, maybe we'll talk about what I've got, all the stuff I've got. I knew we'd fill an hour, no problem, by the way. I told you, Brian. I'm like, I don't know, but I think we'll be fine. Everyone, if you guys can do us a favor, hit the like button. Please leave a comment below. Please, if you're going to be nasty, be as respectful as possible, as nasty, if that makes any sense. But keep it respectful. I do want to hear what your takes are, even though I disagree with them, and Brian too. Whatever you guys want, but like the video because it gets people in the algorithm. Because again, we're about promoting as much Star Wars unification as we can through diversity as far as our opinions. And yes, Ben, and hope you have me back, Ben. Please, we'd love to have you back. And yeah, so we'll probably be back here in 2 weeks, same time. And this show could be adjusting as we get going and Mandalorian gets closer. So just be aware, we will notify everyone when shows will be changing. But if you guys could tell everyone about the live stream, to join the live stream, right, Brian? We want people to join with us.
Right.
And because we want to promote people's opinions too, whether we disagree or agree or vehemently disagree like I do with Ben Bamboo, but still respect you, sir, and Brian. But yeah, again,
right on site, Paul.
Yeah, exactly. So please get out there, tell people about Star Wars Newsnet Live. Let's get the band rolling, get more people interacting, and get some fun conversations out there. And Brian, where can people find your content at, sir?
You guys can find me here whenever we do a live stream for Star Wars Newsnet Live. You can also find me on the YouTube channel for Newsnet. Also, we do a weekly Newsnet roundup, and we also do, I do the Star Wars Canon podcast. I was going to start it this past week. My personal life and work kind of got in the way a little bit. Spoke to my co-host, and yeah, it does. And we're going to be kicking the show off again next weekend. So, my co-host Usuf Wally from Cairo, Egypt, is going to be joining me.
Wow!
On not this coming Saturday night, not tomorrow night, but it'll be the following Saturday night. We're going to go live with our first episode after quite a hiatus. Kind of going to be a little bit of an informal show. We usually have a bit of a structure to it, but this next one, we're just going to kind of be a little informal, kind of get back into, being on the mic and everything. So, talk a little bit about what we're reading. If you guys are interested in some Star Wars canon material, definitely tune in for that. I just finished Padawan. I'm reading The Princess and the Scoundrel right now, which is surprisingly really good. I wasn't really looking forward to it. So we'll give our thoughts on that a little bit. So definitely tune in for that. And you guys can find me on Twitter at Brian Miller 1138.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at Herman22 with 2 N's, aka P Thug. You'll see that here, or I should say over there, or I can't figure it out. So I sorry everyone. I didn't apologize as much this episode, by the way, Brian. Anyway,
you're right. You didn't. No.
I know I didn't. Great.
You stood by what you believe.
I stood by what I said.
Shout out to the Star Wars Newsnet Cantina.
Yeah, word. Yeah, that's right. That's where I got met Val from who runs the site, man. So I love the cantina back in the day. I don't have enough time in my life to devote to it, unfortunately. But anyway, follow me on Twitter there at Herbert22 2 N's P Thug. I'm also on the Star Wars podcast called The Saga Continues with my good friends Kyle and Tim. We go even deeper, and you think, just like me and Brian, me and Kyle often disagree a lot on stuff, and he it can get lively. But it's a lot of fun. I love those guys, and we get really deep on there. If you want your deep dives, Saga Continues is where it's at. I'm also my project. If you guys can do me a huge favor, go over to the Comic Binge. That is my YouTube channel. And please go subscribe over there. The Comic Binge, we are so close to 1,000 subscribers. We are so close. We're at 820 right now. We're so close. Please go over to the Comic Binge. Please hit subscribe. We do all kinds of content for Star Wars. Lots of fun stuff on there. If you love or like comic books or want to get into comics, it's for everyone. We have lots of episodes. We have an episode coming in a few weeks where we're going to be talking about Kang. That's right. I'm going to be talking about Kang comic books that will be pivotal, required reading for the MCU nuts out there. So if you love the MCU, I highly recommend checking out that channel or my channel, the Comic Binge. We're going to have tons of Kang stuff here in a few weeks. And already, if you go to the playlist, we have the MCU MCU. That's my other show I do. The MCU required reading. Tons of stuff on there. Lots of Kang material already on there. So go check that out. Kang. If you want to know more about Kang, check out the Comic Binge. Please subscribe. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we're all set. So Brian, any parting words?
May the force be with you is the only thing I can come up with.
All right. Well, everyone. Hey, Star Warriors. We'll see you next week. See you along.